It kind of reminds me of the truck that Marty McFly had in Back to the Future.
It does kind of have that vibe. It also reminds me of the racist truck in Route 666.
The racist
that one,
truck.
yes.
A little bit smaller. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
And newer.
Dean and Sam get in the Impala and they watch John drive away, and then Dean backs out the opposite end of the alley, which I thought was interesting because John drives forwards and they back out, so they aren't even like going at all the same direction.
They are parting ways.
And Meg sees them drive away, and then that's the end of this episode. So yeah, that was good. I had to look at John's face.
Bit of trauma there.
On to weekly segments and panels. Total death counts. This week we saw 1 death, which brings our on-screen total to 137. And then on and off-screen total for this episode was, I think, 2. Meredith and Ben Swordstrom. I don't think they mentioned anyone else, so that brings
sucks.
on and off screen total to 828 plus.
Oh my.
We also try to assign an MVP of the week, so let's see who our guests would like to nominate as this week's most valuable person. Let's start with Audrey.
MVP. I kind of forgot to think about that.
That's okay.
I would say that Sam had a good role, in helping with the distraction to get free at that point. Distracting Meg.
He did flip that altar pretty hard.
And he was the one who kind of caught on that Meg was being suspicious when Dean was focusing on Sam getting some.
That's true. Meredith, what do you think?
MVP of the week. I'm very tempted to go with Sam, because that was my original thought, but I'm gonna go with the woman who called him a pervert, because I love her.
See something, say something. That lady saw a girl getting perved on, and she spoke up about it. So, actually, good choice.
Seriously.
More women in the world should be like that lady.
Exactly.
More people in the world. And I'm splitting 50-50 between the boys. I think that it was good 50-50 effort. Dean did a lot of the Deva stuff, and Sam did a lot of the Meg stuff. So
the Meg stuff.
The Meg stuff.
There was Meg stuff, yes.
So I'm splitting 50-50 between the two of them.
Nice.
Bechdel test.
Nope.
Did we have 2 named women in this episode? We had Meredith and we had Meg. They did not talk to one another, though, because Meredith got murdered. By Meg.
We also had that woman who was on her answering machine.
Oh, yeah, Kristen.
But that was more talking at. Meredith didn't respond.
Yeah,
I'm
she
gonna
didn't
say
have
that's
a
a
chance.
no. And then lastly, was that conversation with something other than a man? That's a no. The woman on the answering machine doesn't even count for that. They were talking about how Meredith got her heart broken.
Yep, that's definitely men.
That's a solid no. So, this week's case of the week was Davis. I know that Meredith definitely has some research on this. Audrey, did you have research on this as well?
I did not.
Okay, then we're just gonna give this one right over to Meredith. Let her have the floor.
She wants it.
I need to take advantage of this. First of all, word of advice. Don't do research on ancient religions while surviving on amphetamine and 4 hours of sleep.
Meredith.
It's confusing as hell, and you'll want to scream in the middle of the university library.
Do you not already, though?
We love that ADHD lifestyle.
Yeah, it's super fun.
I would just like to clarify that you have ADHD and you are prescribed your stimulants. You're not just
yes. I don't get them illegally.
Or is she?
A doctor gave me this.
You're not just doing amphetamines.
Meredith, you're not participating in illegal drug practices.
No.
My whole image of you has been shattered.
It should. Divas are Zoroastrian. Zoroastrianism is an ancient Iranian religion based on the teachings of the prophet Zarathustra, who is more widely known by the Greek version of his name, Zoroaster. We're not exactly sure when the religion began or when Zarathustra lived, but we think there are some roots in about 2000 BC, which is, I think, what Dean said in the episode. And Zoroastrianism was the state religion of the Persian Empire from about 600 BC to 650 AD, and in many regions, it was later overtaken by Islam. The religion still exists today, as we mentioned, and it has most of its practitioners in India, Iran, and North America. It's actually one of the oldest continuously practiced religions in the world, and those who practice it are called Parsis.
I didn't know that was the same thing.
Yeah.
See,
I've heard Parsi before. I did not know that those people were the same people.
My only thought, as of yet, on your research is Zarathustra, because I am fairly certain there is a musical piece called Also Zarathustra, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but the Zarathustra caught my attention.
Cool, we'll have to listen to that. Oh yeah, with that in mind, I do apologize to any Parsis if I represent your religion in any harmful or ignorant ways. It's not my intention to do so, and if you ever want to reach out to me, KJ, or the podcast, we'll advertise our social media at the end of the episode.
Yes, I agree. Second that.
Yeah.
In Zoroastrianism, the world is locked in this eternal war between good and evil. The forces of good are led by the creator god Ahura Mazda, and the forces of evil are led by the god Angra Mainyu, who was later referred to as Ahriman, and I'm going to use that from now on because it's easier to say. Ahriman represents things like chaos and destruction. Basically, it's humanity's duty to bring happiness and do good things because it empowers Ahura Mazda and supports him in the war against Ahriman, whereas doing bad stuff empowers Ahriman so he can do more bad stuff. This is very simplified, but that's the gist of it.
That makes sense to me.
Oh, Zoroastrianism is actually one of the most interesting ancient religions, in my opinion, because it has a few qualities that were kind of rare at the time. One of these is monotheism, which is the belief or worship of one god, the god in question being Ahura Mazda, the sole god of creation and good stuff. It's also dualistic because of this distinct dichotomy between good and evil. And you may note that it has these things in common with Abrahamic religions, which is great, because you're not the only one. Scholars have noticed that the Abrahamic religions, which are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, have several things in common with Zoroastrianism, including monotheism and dualism, an emphasis on free will, judgment after death, heaven and hell, and messianism. And some think this is a result of Zoroastrian influence on these religions and their development.
That's interesting. Also very common themes for this show.
Okay, so now that we have a basic knowledge of what Zoroastrianism is and where it came from, let's move on to the divas. I looked it up. It is pronounced diva, so sorry, supernatural.
I'm glad that you looked it up. I'm just going to say Deva because that's how Sam and Dean say it, but I appreciate that you looked up the correct pronunciation.
Put simply, divas are demonic entities that serve Ahriman and tried to mislead or corrupt humanity. Some say they were created by Ahriman, but as far as I can tell, that wasn't the case in ancient scripture. In the Gathas, a collection of hymns believed to be composed by Zarathustra himself, the divas are described as wrong or false gods, whom humanity is told to reject. They can't discern truth from lies, and as a consequence are always wrong and deceive humans. They're the children of evil thinking. In some interpretations, Ahriman has encouraged them to choose wickedness, so they're not explicitly demonic yet, but they're still not great. Later, in the Avesta, the main collection of Zoroastrian scriptures, the divas are unquestionably evil and far more demonic, so they're closer to the hostile feral creature we see in this episode.
They have evolved.
At this point, we have several named divas, each with their own spheres of influence. They're meant to directly contrast with the forces of Ahura Mazda, further proving this theme of dualism. So there's a good guy who represents immortality, and he has like a diva rival who poisons plants. So everything has opposition.
Not the plants.
So now I want to address some specific things about the episode.
Yes.
The boys note that Meredith's heart was missing, but I didn't really find anything to make sense of that. It could be a reference to a specific story that I didn't read. I also didn't find anything on the sigil that Meg uses, but again, that doesn't mean there's nothing. Although it would have really helped if they told us what the symbol was actually called, because most symbols, no matter where or when you go, have specific names.
Yeah, if they just said a name, it would have been a lot easier to look it up.
It would have. And if this was a real Zoroastrian sigil, it's no exception. It's going to have a name. Dean says that the term diva... Diva? I didn't know. Okay, anyway. means...
You probably didn't notice because they kept saying Deva in the episode.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Anyway, he says that the term diva means demon of darkness, which I know for a fact is not true. I did that research. The etymology I read was kind of confusing because it's so old that there's a lot we just don't know, but it looks like the term was derived from a word meaning god. So if that's right, it's just calling them gods, which they were sort of in the beginning. They've evolved a lot, but whatever. On to my last point. It's at ending soon. What did divas look like? In the episode, they're invisible except for their shadows, which, by the way, is very cool.
I like that, honestly. It looks great in the episode, too.
Yes. I just
very
love it.
aesthetically pleasing.
Yes, very, very cool. The diva in the episode is humanoid with masculine features, huge Freddy Krueger claws, and some sort of ragged clothing. I looked at artwork from Persian manuscripts dating from the 900s to the 1700s, and the divas there are pretty different. They're still humanoid, and they have big claws, but they're visible, for one thing. They can have a wide variety of skin tones, including one with a very lovely shade of blue. And
Blue's
they
cool.
Yes, I love blue.
It does seem to gel for the time period and the continent.
Yes. They often seem to have scales or fur, which is also...
I'm glad that they didn't have
very
scales or fur.
They always have
that
big...
we know of.
That we saw.
Well, they always have big horns and tusks, which are pretty common for demons in a lot of Eastern cultures. Some of them even have bird feet, which is pretty cool.
I don't like that. Bird feet are creepy.
I like bird
Well,
feet.
they are supposed to be demons, so...
Yeah. They don't wear very much clothing, usually just like a kilt or a loincloth of some kind. They're definitely not supposed to be beautiful creatures, because they're demons. I didn't find anything that really connected them with darkness or shadows, though. There was something about Ahriman residing in like a realm of shadows, but they said that was separate from the realm of the divas, so I guess the writers of Supernatural just read or made up something that I just didn't, which is fair, because
They
I didn't have...
probably just made something up. They love to co-opt cultures that they don't belong to, so...
I didn't have time to dig into any primary sources or anything, so I could be missing a lot. So in conclusion, divas are demonic entities that probably would rip you to shreds, but you would see them coming.
There you go, that's reassuring.
It's even worse when you can see them coming, because they have horns and tusks and scales. You get to see their abs while they rip you to shreds.
It's probably very developed abs from all the people they rip to shreds.
Probably.
They get protein.
So I guess we're gonna go on to highlight and lowlights. So let's start with Meredith. What was your highlight and lowlight?
Well, at this point, I've made it very obvious that I really love opening scenes on this show. And
Yes.
I think I have an extra special connection to this one, so that's my highlight.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. Audrey, how about you?
Okay, my highlight was probably, when Dean told John that they can't work together in this. I think it's kind of a good sign that he is able to tell him to leave.
Yeah, it's a real about face from the conversation he just had with Sam about how he wants them to be together.
Yeah, I like that too, now that you pointed it out.
Meredith, what was your lowlight?
Lowlight, oh gosh, it was Meg when she was like sitting in Sam's lap. Like,
Oh,
Yeah,
that was disgusting.
That was pretty bad, actually. I do have now regrets about not making that my lowlight. Audrey, what was yours?
My low light, that was a pretty strong one.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know. I think I'll go with that because that was really
It was pretty
skeevy.
bad. Yeah, I don't like that at all. My low light was pretty much every second that John was on my screen. None of that was an apology.
No, it wasn't. I
And
was
you
watching.
owed Sam an apology after 4 years.
bit of a tangent, but I think it's like almost funny, like how quickly the diva comes and just rips apart like their little sentimental moment. Like,
Yeah,
I bet it was watching like, that's so sweet. I'm getting cavities.
Thank you.
Sam looks like he might forgive John. We gotta intervene.
little Sailor Moon reference for you.
And then my highlight was the scene where the boys were talking about what they'll do if they kill the demon that night.
Yay! That's a nice little scene.
Yeah. Mental health check. I'm not a psychologist, so this segment is based purely on my own opinions and a weekly reminder that if you're struggling with anything at all, please reach out for help. This week, shockingly, I think I'm good. I think I feel good about this.
Seriously, like, Dean was expressing emotions and told John to, get lost, basically.
Yeah,
like...
there was a lot of open, honest communication about thoughts and feelings, needs, desires, all great.
Yeah.
Upsetting,
Yeah.
but still good. Like, good communication. I would rather see them disagree and communicate about it than, like, bottle up all of their trauma.
One thing I appreciated was that when Dean kind of like exploded like a little tiny bit and said, "Yeah, I don't want you to go," and like he knows on some level that that's something that's just not gonna happen for him. And I think it's important to express desires like that anyway, because it's just weighing down on your soul, and sometimes you just need need to get it out and discuss it with the person you need to discuss it with.
Yeah, I mean, not to discuss too much beyond this episode or even this season, but I think the fact that Dean wants Sam to stay so much, and then the fact that Sam also doesn't want to stay, and that I think it makes the fact that Sam and Dean do stay together so much more, like, impactful.
Yeah.
That they're having these conversations where Sam's like, no, I'm not going to stay, don't plan on me staying, like...
Yeah, they're ironing out the kinks in their relationship, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like, just because it's an impossible desire doesn't mean it's not one you should say.
Speaking
if that
of
makes sense.
desires, we gotta circle back to my issues with Dean this week. It's not even really